So essentially the point of this video is to take a look at how you can use natural light or available light in a space and kind of use that to accentuate your lighting at home. And we're going to do that in two different ways. One of them is going to be using professional film lights that you would find on a set, and one of them being the lights that we've got available, like lamps and things like that, and windows. So without further ado, let's check this out and see kind of what we see. So you can see that this space right here is just, there's no lamps on, there's no lights, it's just simply this window. So of course we've got a strong front light coming in from this large window. And then as we move to the other side of the room, you can see that it is quite dark in here, that this is nowhere near the amount of light. I could always raise the aperture. Actually, this is wide open. I could raise the ISO, which would give us more light, but I don't really want to do that. I don't want to get the image too noisy. So this now is with a daylight rated light, as you can see here, that is turned on. The advantage of a daylight rated light is that they can get a lot brighter than kind of a bicolor LED that does tungsten and daylight rating. So this light is rated to the color of the sun, so when we turn that way, it just kind of looks like there's a really bright window. Of course, that light is also very close, so the shadows aren't quite accurate as you would see out of a window, but this is just kind of a demo. And again, here you can see, even on 27% light, it is still very, very bright, and that's the advantage there of a daylight rated. This is a bicolor LED, so it's a little bit dimmer that I'm going to use for the hair light. And the reason I'm using it as a hair light is because it just doesn't have to be as bright as that front light, and it's a smaller window back there. Again, we're just kind of using the natural light as a basis of where we want to put these lights. So you can see here that this is without any lights set up. This is just the kind of before, and then afterwards we get a pretty properly exposed image. And you can see that, again, the shadows on that lamp, on the wall behind the lamp there, they kind of look like it's artificially lit, and that can all be solved with just taking a little bit more care and time into setting up these lights. We've also got gels. These are not technically gels, they're kind of like little strap things that you put over. This is what a gel looks like. So we can use both of these to alter the color of the light instead of having to dim the light to change it. So we've got that yellow light there on the lamp. Now the lamp's just pointed kind of up at the ceiling, and I've turned the lamp over there, the actual room lamp, on. So it kind of matches. Most indoor lights are tungsten rated, so they're going to be a lot more yellow than sunlight. So you could imagine like a shot like this kind of taking place either, there's a fireplace, or it's just kind of a more homey, warm feeling. It's a little bit kind of greenish, so what you could do in post is pump up the pinks and the magentas and kind of make it a little bit warmer and less kind of green looking. But that's, again, just 2-minute setup. Even here you can see how we can now use that LED light panel to just sort of accentuate and balance out my face so that you can see the sides of my face without just having a really bright light in front through the window. Once again, if we go to the next shot here, you can see that we're utilizing the window. We're taking the cues from what the natural room light looks like, and we are adding our own light just to fill in that space and to get it looking natural. But this, this looks like it could be sunlight coming through a window hitting me there. You're always also going to either want to bounce the light off of something, or you're going to want to somehow diffuse it. If you get a really harsh light with a harsh shadow, it's going to look a little bit more artificial than it would if you have the softer shadows, especially through windows when, it's not like the sun is coming directly through the windows. It's bouncing off of everything outside, so you don't want to have just a harsh light. Here's a great example of light being too strong. So you can see that, of course, it's coming from the right direction, but this light is just rated at a much too high of a power level. So what I can do is turn that down, and then when you see this shot here, you can see as I walk in, it looks much more natural. It looks like there actually is just a window there, and it's not a light. However, if I were to turn this light off and cut it, this shot would be way too dark for the proper exposure that I'm at right now. And then again, we can come back to this shot here. So this is actually taken during the night, just to kind of see how I can recreate sunlight even when there's no sunlight outside. Again, another example of the light being too bright. So you can see that the power level is much too high here. It doesn't really look like sunlight. It looks like I've got a lamp right next to me. But if we go and we turn that light down, then we can actually see kind of a more natural looking light. And this, with a few more reflectors and bounces up, you could actually get this looking like you were taking it during the day. I've also got that LED panel to my left just to kind of fill in that negative space there. And just here's another example of taking a shot at night. If I were to sit in this chair, if you go back to the earlier shot of me in the chair when it was daytime, you can actually see that it does look very similar. That this light, again, of course, it's sunlight rated, so you're automatically going to get a color temperature that matches that of outdoor daylight. And that's a huge advantage because you don't have to worry about the sun setting and things like that. You can really take advantage of that. Here's just kind of a funky example where I've got another one of those gels over the light, and again, you can kind of imagine this being either fireplace or sunrise or something like that. If you lowered that light, you could kind of play it to be early morning or sunset or something like that, and kind of again play around with those artificial light sources that might not be available in natural available light. So again, you can see that I've got the light coming from both directions here. One to my left, that LED light panel, because again, that window over there is smaller, so there'd be less light coming through it, depending on the time of the day. And the one on the right, the big window that I'm closer to, has a much, hotter presence there. But even then, you want to keep the light low because light's coming through windows, unless it's early morning or unless you're, directly in the sunlight that's beaming through the window, you're not going to actually get a super, super bright light coming in through a window that would bounce around the room, as again you can see here. So we've got these 3 lamps in here. So let's take a look at what we can do without the professional lights, without lights that you would buy, and just lights that are available in this house. And I've done this for projects that I shot here before. I've had no lights with me, and so I've just kind of had to make use of what's in the house. So here we've got this one lamp here next to the chair to the left. That's kind of a higher light, and then we've got the window behind us. So again, a really key thing to do when you're using just the available light and you don't have the professional lights is to use every source. So we've got this huge window here, so you're going to want to kind of position your actors or your subjects as closely to that window as you can to use that light. And you can see that it kind of balances out the side of my face there, that the, of course, tungsten rated indoor light there is going to make my face kind of yellow, so we can kind of balance that out with the blue. That's especially clear here. You've got the lamp to my right on, and then you've got a lamp behind me on that actually kind of makes a cool pattern on the wall. But the daylight coming through the window is actually going to kind of cool off that really warm tungsten light and kind of provide a little bit of a layering to the light, which can be really advantageous and look really nice. And again, here we can see that you don't even really need indoor lights necessarily. You can kind of position someone. Of course, again, the exposure here is far too high. So what can we do to change that? Well, we can put an ND filter on the camera. Luckily, this camera has a built-in one, so I can just switch that built-in ND onto the lowest setting, or I can lower the aperture or the shutter speed. What is, again, you can see that it's still pretty hot there, and that I could have lowered that even more. But for the sake of the demo, just to kind of show that you can actually get a pretty decent looking shot without having to use any professional big lights. Another great advantage of shooting indoors, or a good idea to use shooting indoors, is wear a white shirt, because that's just going to automatically bounce the light around you while you're shooting. And it's going to reflect light onto the actor's face, it's going to reflect light around, so it's going to make it brighter, as opposed to a black shirt, which would, of course, suck in and absorb and lower the light levels and not reflect anything. So I hope this was helpful. Just a brief demo on indoor lighting and how you can kind of utilize the principles that you would use with professional lights, but get away with some of those same tricks with just lamps and things like that you have available at home. Thanks for watching.